Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This weekend we are going to one of the most iconic and emotionally charged Formula One Grand Prix in its history. AWS Gran Premio del Made in Italy y del Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. But first, I just created my brand new Instagram account where I will keep you all updated on everything that is happening during the weekends, including penalties and podiums and all of that. So please make sure to give me a follow and let's get into the video. So here's a little backstory on this race. Imola first appeared on the calendar in 1980 and hosted the San Marino Grand Prix from 1981 to 2006. Now you may ask the very valid question, why is it called San Marino Grand Prix if it's in Italy? Well, at the time, Monza had already claimed the Italian Grand Prix name for itself, and there was a sort of rule where there was only one Grand Prix allowed to be named after each country. So Formula One decided to take the name of the nearby microstate San Marino to name this Grand Prix. Now the track is officially called the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, and it was originally built in 1950 as a testing ground for Ferrari, Maserati, and other Italian manufacturers. The circuit officially opened as a racing track in 1953, and by the 70s, it was already an icon in motorsports. You might have already guessed by listening to the name of the circuit, but this is Ferrari's home turf. The circuit is only 80 kilometers away from Maranello, which is Ferrari's headquarters. And every time Formula One returns to Imola, let's just say that the grandstands are only one color, and that is red. So when it comes to this race for Ferrari fans, it is not just about the points, this is about pride. This circuit has had some unforgettable and also some very heartbreaking moments in its history. We cannot talk about Imola without talking about the tragic weekend of 1994, which saw the death of both Roland Ratzberg and Ayrton Senna. But if we want to talk about a more positive, iconic moment, depending on who you ask, we have to talk about the 2005 Grand Prix. During this race, Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher delivered a battle for the ages. After the last round of pit stops, Fernando Alonso was in pole position, but Michael Schumacher had fresher tires. And Schumacher hunted Alonso down from lap 50 to 62. Yet, Alonso was able to do a masterful defense and keep the Ferrari behind him until the end of the race. This has become one of the most iconic defensive drives of Alonso's career. And it sort of proves that this track is not about the pace, but about the racecraft. When it comes to winners of Imola, Michael Schumacher reigns supreme with 7 victories to his name. However, that was in the previous layout of the track. If we talk about the current layout of the track, Max Verstappen is the most successful driver with 3 wins to his name. And when it comes to Ferrari and their home turf, their last win was in 2006. And with how this season is going, I don't hold much hope for them. But who knows, maybe we'll see a Tifosi miracle this weekend because the current lap record is held by Lewis Hamilton. As I mentioned before, this track has had many modifications over the years, the main one being the Tamburello section. Now this chicane has received many complaints over the years due to the amount of crashes that happen in the section. However, it was only modified after Senna's death, which is a little too late. One interesting fact about the Imola circuit is that it's one of the very few races that is raced anti-clockwise. And that is more important than you might think. Most of the tracks are run clockwise, which means that there's a lot more right-handed turns. But Imola flips that. With a lot more left-hand turns, there's a lot more strain on the right side of the driver's neck and body. And it also changes how the car is set up, especially when it comes to suspension and the tire wear distribution, which is something to pay attention to during the weekend. Now let's break down the circuit. The track is 4.9 kilometers long, it has 19 turns and a total of 63 laps per race. It's technical, it's narrow, and there's barely any runoff, so you go wide, you go into the wall. Some of the key sections of this track are the Tamburello section. It is the fastest part of the circuit and the most dangerous as well. The Acqua Minerali, which goes downhill and then back up, and the Ribasa, which is very tight and easy to lock up. So if you get it wrong, your lap is gone. There's only one DRS zone, which means that overtaking is tough. So the teams will be relying a lot on qualifying and on the pit stop strategy. Now let's look ahead of what this weekend has in store for us. Something really interesting that is happening this weekend is that we have a new driver on the grid. Franco Colapinto has officially joined Alpine as their main driver. And I talk a little bit more about it in depth in another video, so go and check it out if you want to. And something else that is happening this weekend is that the FIA came up with new penalties. Basically, the new rule says that the drivers could face a punishment if they inflict moral injury or loss to the FIA, its bodies, its members, or its executive officers, or carry out any misconduct. Now, this has been talked about earlier in the year, however, the penalties have changed. If the misconduct is committed by a driver during free practice or qualifying, they will receive a minimum 3 grid place penalty for the next race. If the misconduct is committed by a team member that is not the driver during free practice and qualifying, both cars from the team will receive a minimum 3 grid penalty. And if the misconduct is committed by a driver or a team member during the sprint or the race, the driver will receive a minimum 5-second penalty. This seems a bit crazy, however, I do want to point out that when it comes to swearing, the FIA has made a distinction between controlled environment, which is interviews, press conference, podiums, and non-controlled environments, which is the radio transmissions between the driver and the teams, as well as random recordings made on the circuit. And also the maximum penalty, which was 10,000 euros, has been reduced to 5,000 euros. The FIA has also stated that when it comes to the misconducts, it will be judged on a case-to-case basis. But anyways, let's move on to the predictions for this weekend. Now, for the Miami Grand Prix, I started asking both Gemini and ChatGPT what their predictions are for the podium, and I will be comparing them to my own. So my predictions for the 2025 Imola Grand Prix are as follows. Now, third place, I went more for what I would love to see. I think if this person made it to the podium, it would be cinematic, and that is Kimi Antonelli. He made it to pole position in the Miami sprint race. He was not able to translate that properly during the races themselves, but there's a lot of potential there. And I think that if we see an Italian on the podium in Italy, it would be cinematic. And I would love that for Kimi. And if it doesn't happen in Imola, it might happen in Monza, but I really would love to see Kimi on the podium. For second place, I went with Oscar Piastri. He is doing incredible. He has won like 4 races in a row or something like that. He is definitely the person to beat, and I don't doubt that he will do a great job. First place, I went with Max Verstappen. As I said earlier, this track is about racecraft more than pace, and Max has the racecraft. But also one of the main things that the teams have to take into account this race are the pit stops, and sadly Red Bull's pit stops have left a lot to desire. Now, for those of you who don't know how a pit stop works, when the driver comes into the pit stop, there is a stoplight put in front of them. Basically, the stoplight tells the driver when the pit stop is finished and they should just go. This light is usually switched on by one of the engineers. However, over the past couple of races, the Red Bull stoplight has not been working properly. You could see actually in the footage that one of the Red Bull engineers is constantly pressing the button and the color of the light is not changing. And this has affected both Max and Yuki quite a bit during their races. So let's just hope that Red Bull got their act together and was able to fix this light, which they were supposed to have fixed already by Miami, but apparently they didn't. And let's hope for the best. Now, ChatGPT's predictions for Imola are third place to Charles Leclerc, which I wouldn't mind at all. Second place, Lando Norris. And first place, Max Verstappen. And Gemini's predictions are third place, Charles Leclerc. Second place, Lando Norris, and first place, Max Verstappen. So they both had a very similar idea. And to be honest, even though I didn't put Charles Leclerc on the podium, I would definitely love to see him there. This is the end of the Imola Grand Prix preview and predictions. Let me know down in the comments what your guys' predictions for this weekend are. But make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to follow me on Instagram as well if you want to see updates on what is happening during the weekend. But anyways, take care of yourself, and I hope to see you all next time.